which is how we house all of the syndicated content, promotions, commercial content, and it's all centralized. So gone are the days of sort of prepping the same Judge Judy show at 85 locations. It's all put in the cloud. It's prep once, and then that potentially, can be delivered to anybody who may have that, syndicated content. Content center transformations, the news, transformations that we have on board, which is, my main project right now. And it's got, some sub projects to it, a camera to cloud, easily getting content from the field up to the cloud so that it can be distributed from a more central fashion using, VO for news gathering. Obviously, there's lots of, cellular, bonding cellular type products out there, but you can't beat physics, and there are times where you don't have any cellular bandwidth. So VO could be a good way to support that, either as a primary transmission mechanism, or could supplement some of the bonded cellular. We're looking at how we transform tickers. And we probably not have been able to do that in the mechanism with this HTML5 based Florex application if we weren't doing the Amoli piece in the cloud. So it's part of this just started with doing things on the master control side. But if you look at all of these things, they all have news implications. So, potentially of how we get news content over ATSC 3.0. Data distribution and have news implications. So it's been quite a journey, and it's something that will probably continue for the next 10 years.
That's awesome. And I think, definitely during this conversation, we want to talk a little bit more about that journey. Since you brought up ATSC 3.0, I have to also give the plug that working with Sinclair, we're actually showing ATSC 3.0 in the AWS booth as part of the media pipeline that we're demonstrating. So I encourage you to go see that. And I know that, focusing on some of the news workflows, oftentimes, especially with the stations you have across the US and trying to find better ways to collaborate, there used to be a lot of friction points in the collaboration across both within and across newsrooms. Could you tell us a little bit more about the story management experiments you've been doing and some of the tools you're looking at to drive that collaboration?
Yeah, we obviously have been a long time Avid customer, and we still have an existing Avid agreement that, has an end date to it. And I think, it's part of our due diligence to look at what is out there, not only where Avid is going with the cloud and, how they can help us on this journey, but I think you have to always look at the complete vendor landscape. We had a current pilot that we were doing with the font group at one of our stations in Michigan that is, brought in some cloud native toolings that have helped us, adapt in many ways. And I think efficiency in the newsroom, I think, starts for us with, content centralization, because it's how do you build a framework across the entire group. Today, we have sort of 65, 70 islands of news production. We leverage those to the hilt to share content. But, as you said, there's friction to making it simple and easy for users to find what they need and use what they need out of whatever platform. So centralizing that content in the cloud for us has helped to be able to, no matter what area of our company wants to utilize a piece of content, we have digital teams, we have traditional linear teams, we have teams that have created unique content based on all that content that is shot in the field. They all want that content fast, and they all want it at the same time. So that has helped to sort of optimize some of these workflows. And I think we also look at this as we have people out in the field, we're creating content, we want to distribute it to an endpoint. So over the last decades, we built these complicated systems in between that were sending content from the field into production systems and then trying to figure out how to distribute it simultaneously to all of the different endpoints. So here's a thought. Why don't they just have the people who are creating the content be able to publish it from where they're going, whether it's their, existing story that they're working on, or whether it's a soundbite from the story. So those are some of the ways that we have looked to optimize across the entire league.
And those endpoints keep changing, right? Like is it one of the challenges that uh, platforms that people want to engage with for news, some of them didn't even exist a year ago when we were talking about some of these architectures.
Yeah, it's always a moving target, and the other difficulty is sometimes you know, those robust APIs that you can make these connections, and then whether it's Facebook or TikTok or whoever the endpoint is, they go and change the API. So then you have to go back to the vendors and manipulate some of that. So, and I think that'll be something that we'll just have to continue to deal with. And
Understood. And so to recap, like great benefits in getting centralized content and some type of story management.
go ahead, done for slide.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and we won't dive into all of these, but I think, we are seeing better benefits of, getting content from the field to our platforms via cell phones. Reporters show up in the scene, they've got a live view or a live truck or some other device, but sometimes even that's not fast enough to, spin up those resources. So it's very easy. Shoot your content on your phone. 30 seconds later, it's in a system that then others can take actions upon that, whether it's they want to change the aspect ratio, or they want to send it to Instagram and they need the 1x1, or they want to do a YouTube short and they need a vertical. So that has been a big benefit. You've had a significant reduction in hardware. We've been in a mechanism for a while where there's a lot of hardware running on prem. And then you go through these, 5-year hardware cycles where you have to refresh it. So we're really looking at data-driven and software-driven workflows that all you have to do is change software code. You don't have to go buy a new piece of hardware. Like I said, the station sharing and collaboration is big. It's a big benefit. Being able to remote edit from anywhere. And again, we don't have to go through all of these, but lots of benefits in the transformation.
And and since you touched on hardware, I want to revisit that for a second, because I remember in a previous role at a more traditional company, there would be times where I'd be having conversations with these customers about, okay, you need to find like a 24-hour to 48-hour window to go upgrade your hardware and your software. And, we'd have rollback plans if things didn't go well, compared with today and like cloud native CI/CD type pipelines. Yep. Can you compare it to contrast for the audience a little bit?
There is no one in this audience that has not had a bad upgrade experience. Basically, we have to schedule a downtime for a newsroom. This is only going to take 2 hours. 6 hours later, you're trying to unwind what went wrong and trying to get the newscast back on the air. And that has been an incredible change here, is that, when Top 5 native, those upgrades happen in the background. I think on the newsroom computer system side, you've done 5 upgrades while the system was running. Users didn't even know that it was happening. And all of a sudden, you get a pop-up within the LRCS that says, here's the 15 features that we've added. Here's the bugs we fixed. And on the asset management side, I think we've done somewhere between 10 and 15 that have happened in the background. So, and that has been a big benefit of just the speed of innovation. There's been capability to say, hey, this thing's not quite working the way you want it. Can you do X? And sometimes 48 hours later, it's been developed, it's tested, and deployed. And that is not an ecosystem that we have been involved in previously. So great benefit there.
A huge difference from the way things used to be. Moving on to acquisition and media management, are there other benefits that you want to tell the audience about?
I think this is a lot of the list. I think the metadata is a big piece. We've not been in a scenario where either on the input or output side, we have a lot of control over metadata, whether it's manually inputted or whether it's enriched by some other AI service, that gives us not only analytics, but helps us drive stories. We have this bucket strategy in news, and there are very specific items by stations that a station is determined this story, topic, or vertical, can drive value or engagement for them. So now when any story is entered, you're entering what that bucket is, whether it's breaking news, whether it's public safety, whether it's health, whether it's weather, that now you can, build a dashboard around so you can track, well, how many public safety stories that you do, or if it's a story that other stations may have interest in, you now can use that data to drive more automated workflows to say, okay, this is a story topic that 15 stations are going to have interest in. So just push that story to these stations and it's ready there. It's ready there for them to consume that content, as opposed to sort of what has happened traditionally over the decades, which is, oh, hey, you find out 4 hours later, this station's at X. Somebody has to pick up the phone, call them. Can you feed me a story, or can you transfer the story? So, the speed and being able to share content across stations and, use those data-driven workflows has been a change.
Awesome. And since you mentioned metadata, I know working with users for however many decades, one of photons and editors and journalists' favorite things to do is tagging, especially when there's a breaking news story, like running in and putting in metadata tags. Obviously, being sarcastic there, but can you talk a little bit about how you're seeing some of the benefits of the AI in terms of being able to help with content search and discovery and remove some of the burden of having folks manually tag metadata and allowing machine learning, Gen AI to actually help identify what is content is?
Yeah, the enrichment is key there. And I think, we're looking at ways to enrich as much content as we can. Obviously there's a financial consideration there. You can't necessarily, again, looking at what we do across the group, 10,000 hours of content. I know AWS would probably love us to use AI tools to do scene detection and facial recognition on all of that. But, setting up workflows that, you're able to do that, or looking at ways that, you can establish AI workflows that know who the, some of the people are in the content, and as building some AI workflows around that. The transcriptions is probably the biggest part. It's a fairly simple AI tool, but that is probably been the biggest game changer on the AI side of things, because we've had to traditionally do logging for hours and hours of content sometimes, and we're hearing from the users that in certain cases it's taking 45 minutes to an hour out of their day of where they would have had to go through and log. I think we do have an AI slide and to talk about some of the other AI benefits. The click down will work.